comes, he comes, or she, or whoever. He, okay. Let's take a minute before we get started to be a little bit serious. We're running something like 700 people have gone through the program since the beginning. And of those, maybe 40 or 50 have died, including our founder, Brother Robert, has died, a couple of other people that recruited. So let's take a minute and think about all those people whom we will join someday. Amen. Today, what we're doing is, I understand it, although I was not heavily threatened, is that we will listen to the old timers, and they will be the text, and then we can deal with that when the time comes. So it's up to them. Now, the trouble is that among the four of us, there are attorneys and professors who have a great problem making it short. So let's keep an eye on that, because we have to be over eating well at noon. So let's be serious. So whoever wants to start, introduce yourself, tell your story, and we'll move on.
Why don't we let Dennis go first, since you're a professor?
Well, there he is.
Well, we were asked to write something, and I'm not sure that I want to read what I wrote or just wing it, which is more my style. But I guess I should read what I wrote. What page each?
I didn't think you were asked to write something. You were asking for something organized. I didn't.
Well, I wrote something.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll
Just didn't know that.
Well, I didn't know that either, I guess. So basically, this is my bio. Tell me if it's too long. I'm just cutting it. Well, no, I'll just talk. Well, I think I came to St. Mary's specifically for the Integral. And I think in that way I was rare among the early days, because nobody knew what the Integral was. But I got hooked in high school, Sarah High School in Los Angeles, on the Greeks and the Romans. And I think I did it by just sort of wandering around the stacks of the neighborhood library, which was a pretty good library. And somehow I stumbled across the Greeks. I think it was actually a text of the Republic that I guess I'm not ashamed to say, because I was 15, 14. I was drawn by the news in the book, naked ladies. How that fits into the Republic, you'll have to, I can't remember, but it worked. So I thought, well, this was interesting. So I took it home and started reading it. And, wow, what is this? This is terrific. And so I got interested in Greek and Roman stuff. And so I read everything I could get my hands on. And in doing this, I was coming up to graduate. And I have to say, I was not a scholarly kid. I was a young, anybody know what the word chuko is?
Yes.
I had hairdo, tattoos, and khakis. So I wasn't your normal classic. My hand, my tattoo. So basically, I started hearing about the great books. And I heard that there was something in Chicago. I had interest in that. And then I heard about St. John's. So I wrote both of them. And started the application process at St. John's. They offered me a very small scholarship, but I really wanted to go there. So then Brother Albert Rail, anybody remember White Owl? I think the gymnasium was Little Owl. Well, it was Little Owl, Black Owl, White Owl. We call it White Owl. Little Irishman with white hair. He came and he talked about this new program that was opening up at St. Mary's called the Integrated. And I thought it was great. So I jumped at it. And I kind of really already knew what was going on. I mean, I knew what it was, more so than other folks, because I'd been reading it. So I went in to meet Brother Robert, and he said, do you have any questions? And I said, I have 2 questions. And understand, now I had the hairdo, and I was a young Chuko standing here with Brother Robert behind his desk. And he said, well, what are they? I said, 1, can I learn Greek? And 2, what is existentialism? And he said, well, he said, yes to the first, and you'll find out about the other later. I said, I'm on. So I love it. I love the program. I got into it, and I just read everything and just enjoyed it better than anything. I graduated, I got 3 majors, English, philosophy, and the program. We were able to do that in those days. And then I got a Woodrow Wilson Fellowship, which basically let me go anywhere in the United States to study. And I decided to study with a friend and colleague, Brother Roberts, whose name I forget, who was an Aristotelian and Thomist in philosophy. And I had gone to Laval University my sophomore year to learn French and to study with a big shot, big-time Thomist named Conner. I didn't really enjoy studying Aristotle or Thomism. I really wanted to go to existential. People are familiar with existentialism, a philosophy that essentially maintains that there's nothing much given other than yourself thrown into a world and you make up the rules as you go along. Some version of that. So anyway, I studied philosophy 2 years at Indiana, then I went to France at the University of Paris and Sorbonne, specifically to study phenomenology and existentialism. And when I came back to graduate school, I came back more in literature than philosophy, and I got a master's degree in, it's called the School of Letters, Literary Criticism and Aesthetic, and I finished all my exams for my PhD in comparative literature. So, I went to Canada, taught in Canada for a while. This was during the recent, what shall we call it, bagarre, the war. Canada was a more really place for me. Taught in Canada for 5 years, and then I was hired to teach here at St. Mary's in, I think, 1971. Taught here in the English department and in the school, in the collegiate seminar. And I think I did a few courses in the program, but I wasn't officially in the program. So in 1975, I departed academia, as I wrote here, to go into the wine, food, restaurant business and become an entrepreneur. I got a little, I had some little disagreements with academia in general, and St. Mary's in particular. So I went into business. I ran a winery. I owned a restaurant. What else did I do? I was on the radio, on TV. I did a lot of stuff over 25 years.
But he wrote the set of books on barbecue.
I did. I did indeed. I wrote 50.
Yeah.
Of course, I wrote 15 cookbooks. I was a professional writer, had an agent, did all that. Got the James Beard Award and the Julia Child Award. So I had fun. And I worked hard, made some money, had a good time. While I was doing this, I also ended up teaching at the University of California in their wine extension department, talking about wine and its history and culture. And then I ended up teaching at the Apple Valley College over here in their hotel restaurant management program. About 1990 or so, Theo Carlisle asked me to teach a course in collegiate seminar, which he was running at that time. I did it, had a great time, and started moving over more towards St. Mary's and teaching again, and then towards my business. I had a public relations business and marketing and a bunch of other stuff. So I guess about 1992 or so, I was teaching here full time. I was teaching in the Integral program, collegiate seminar, and graduate liberal studies. I retired recently, and now I divide my time between Hayward Hills, where I have a house that I live in, and a house up in Sonoma County, and that's what I've done. So the thing that I guess you might see for me is that while I was a professor, I was not your regular professor. I took 25 years out and worked for a living, like some of us here, and got off the academic jet for a while and enjoyed myself. That's what I did.
Was it clear that he is Dennis Kelly? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good show. We're going to keep that clear. I don't want to be confused for you.
I hear you.
Very regard, but
Go ahead.
I read this somewhat differently. Dennis and I thought we would have a good conversation, and therefore what I'm going to say is very short. When I came to St. Mary's, I'd never heard, we called it special studies in those days, 1956. I never heard of it. And they would ask if anybody was interested in this new program, and some of them said, why not? So I remember it was right out front here, we walked down and talked to Robert, and said, oh, okay, I'll do that. I had no idea what it was like. Turned out it was a wonderful experience for me. And a large measure of that was Robert. He was an extraordinary human being. The course itself was great. I think it's, my observation over the years has been that the program has adjusted and changed. It's probably somewhat different, although basically I think In any event, there were, Jerry can have a better memory than I, perhaps, or Dennis, how many, but I'm going to say less than 20 finished it. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience because we spent a lot of time talking to each other. For me, it was a good time to learn a little bit how to listen. I later became a lawyer, so you can see what my problem was. I like to talk. In any event, I spent 4 years in what is now the Integral program. It was then the Special Center program. It's a wonderful experience, and I'll tell you why in a moment. It was a wonderful experience. I then went to the University of California, Bolt Hall and Law School, and graduated in 1963. I was supposed to go into service, and I had been accepted to what I would call the JAG program. In the Navy, when President Kennedy exempted married women, I married in June when I graduated, and something like October, he exempted married women. I was supposed to be back on the East Coast in late November. You had to become a line officer first, and then you got, assuming you didn't wind up not a line officer, then you went to their JAG program. In any event, I went down and talked to my recruiting officer in San Francisco. He said, "Are you going to be career?" I said, "No." He said, "Then why go?" So my wife and I were a little disappointed. We had visions of where we were going to be sent. And he said, "Have you ever been to Norfolk, Virginia?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, you don't want to go." And he said, "That's where you might go." So we said, "We won't go." So I began the practice of law and took the bar in 63. Fortunately passed it. And I spent the next almost 50 years practicing law. I started by trying cases the first week I started my job because I was in the district attorney's office in Santa Clara County. So I spent 2 years doing that, which was a good experience. And then the next 47, 46 years, I practiced what I would call mostly civil law with varying firms, from 10 people to a firm to 1,000 plus people in a firm. And it was a very good experience because I pretty much did my own thing. Even when I was with a huge firm, which was a firm called Pillsbury, which was home base was in San Francisco, I practiced my law and therefore I did my own things, including environmental law, because when I started practicing law, there was no environmental law. So my clients spent a lot of money educating me on environmental law. It was a very challenging and rewarding. Now, I'll get off career. During that period of time, I had 4 children. A wonderful wife, she since has died. I was on our local school board for 22 years. I was on the board of trustees here for 9 years. I've been on the planning commission in Los Angeles, my 4th term, so it'll be 16 years doing that. So one of the things I thought my education gave me, I guess, was the idea of participation, giving back to what had been given to you. So I got a lot of that out of both the brothers and our program. What I found valuable, I thought, about the program was it opened up to me, at least. I was, I think, fairly narrow-minded when I started the program. It opened up a world to me, and I remember one of the later professors talking about wonder. And if you asked me about wonder when I was a freshman here, I had no idea, would have had no idea. But after spending 4 years here, I found that, I thought, wonder to me opened up a world because it meant you cared enough and knew enough to see wonder in learning and to see wonder in life. And so I've always tried to take that message from this program to appreciate things, and then the wonder comes from it. We were supposed to come up with 3 kind of key phrases, so I would put wonder there. The other one I would put is perseverance, because a lot of this did not come naturally to me. But you persevered. When I went to law school, you persevered. And then I think the third thing, which I'm still greatly working on, is called wisdom. And it took a long time to realize that you could be the smartest kid in your class and not wise at all. Or maybe be a person who perhaps had not gone to school and be wise. So I think I got from the program an appreciation, at least a starting appreciation of what at least I take wisdom to be. And it becomes a life search, a life goal. And I would have been a totally different person had I not been exposed to this program. And as I say, I'm sorry you did not get to know Robert. He was an extraordinary man. He devoted himself, God knows he may have been doing other things, but he seemed to devote himself entirely to us. And so you didn't just go to class with Robert, you went all over with Robert. So he opened up the world to me, and therefore the program opened up the world to me. So that's all I'm going to say, because I'm looking forward to hearing from you. So thank you.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank everyone very much for the invitation today. I got an email from Brother Kenneth referring to the three of us as Old Codgers, and he called us the Old Codgers Brunch.
The brothers say Old Cougars.
Old Cougars, yeah,
that's close.
I've got it on my computer, and right next to it, I always still keep my Webster's New Collegiate Dictionary right there. So I went to it to make sure I understood what Codgers was. And it's defined as a mildly eccentric or disreputable fellow. which I would wear that badge, that banner gladly. Unlike Tom and Dennis, I have no academic or legal background whatsoever. I became an entrepreneur and started my own business. But my connection with St. Mary's College goes way back, so let me talk a little bit about that, then about myself a little bit, then about the program. I was an undergrad here at St. Mary's. I was the first person in my family, we had 4 boys, to go to college, with the exception of that priest, of course, who came to St. Mary's first before me for 1 year, and then went on to join the Dominican order. I have 3 brothers, the oldest of which is still with us and is a retired Dominican priest, and it was chaplain here at St. Mary's for 5 or 6 years, of which he was very justifiably proud. But I was here as an undergrad. I came back, 7, 8 years later as an employee. I was employed as business manager of the college for 3 years. And then later on, when I became an entrepreneur and got into the world of business, I came back to the MBA program. I'm in the janitorial supply business, or I have been. I'm now gladly retired. But my wife loves to introduce me as the only person she knew who needed an MBA to sell toilet paper. In any event, I did go through the very first program and went through that particular executive MBA program, which was a great experience. I've always hoped to claim the title of a native Californian. However, I was born in Seattle, Washington, thanks to the Great Depression. My family moved to Benicia, California. I don't know if many of you know where Benicia is. It's up there somewhere on the river. In 1939, I attended elementary school at St. Catherine's Academy in Benicia, along with Tom. We were classmates in elementary school, high school, college. I didn't follow him to Old Codgers. I applied for entry in the School of Liberal Arts at St. Mary's as we approached graduation from high school, and was invited to participate, and to the best of my recollection, I got a postcard. It was on a postcard from Brother Robert, inviting me. He said, "You have been chosen to participate in the program." Fine by me, I guess that's an honor, I guess. I don't know, I didn't know that much about it. I had studied the catalog, I knew the liberal arts program, what I was headed for, but we got invited. The interesting thing about it is as we look at the program and how it was structured, from our high school in Vallejo, there was at least, I'm counting 5, yourself, myself, Ron Hall, Paul
John
Cannell,
Powers.
pardon?
Powers.
John Powers. So that's 4 there, and I don't think Gallagher or Cannell were in the program, however.
Oh, yeah, no, they weren't.
Yeah, but there was about 6 of us, or 7 of us, that came from that graduating class of St. Mary's. And of that, I think 4 of us were invited to participate in the special studies program. So to finish, instead of fighting off the what we had in those days, which was called the draft, I enlisted in the United States Army in 1961. I served 3 years in the Army Security Agency as a cryptographer and 2 years in Germany. When I was discharged from the Army, I got married shortly after I got back in Pennsylvania, where I met a lovely girl and returned to California. I worked for the Southern Pacific Railroad, which I had done during my entire period of time that I was in undergraduate here at St. Mary's. I would attend my classes, go to San Francisco, and work as a locomotive fireman. Then, as an insurance agent, and in 1966, accepted the position of business manager at St. Mary's College in Moraga, which was a very interesting experience. At that time, it was all male. For those who don't know that, we always touted ourselves as St. Mary's College Mother of Men. There was no mention of women in that, as I recall. So I was business manager here from 1966 to 69. I left and took a position as a purchasing agent and manager of a supply company in Emeryville. And via that entree, since the company I worked for was a sponsor of the first MBA program, I was asked to participate in it, and gladly did so and graduated from that program. In 1976, I left to form my own company in a partnership in Oakland, California. And in 84, I dissolved that partnership, formed my own company in Vallejo, which I have operated for the past 33 years. Just recently, as I mentioned, I sold the company, and something about retiring, I'm not sure about that. I've been married for 53 years to the former Mary Ellen Flaherty. I'm the father of 3 daughters, which gives me a very interesting perspective about St. Mary's Mother of Men. And I'm the proud grandfather of 8 people. I was elected council member of the city of Benicia in 1992 and mayor in 1996. And now about the program, you know, we all really loved and enjoyed our experience with Brother Robert Smith. But in reflection, the program was really the genesis of James Haggerty, who had a very close attachment to the founders of the great books movement. Mortimer Adler comes to mind, and all his associates from the University of Chicago, Notre Dame, and so forth, to which Haggerty and certainly Robert Smith were associated. And it was James Haggerty who started to put together this program, and lo and behold, he got ill, and he died, and the president of the college at that time said to Robert Smith, well, either it dies or you take it, that's it. He didn't have any choice. It was an assignment given to him, which he picked up and ran with to his everlasting credit. So it was a program founded on the Great Books program, and for its benefit to me, when I first discussed this with Ernie about talking about it and talking about the program and so forth. When I came back to St. Mary's as an employee in the late 60s. I don't know if many of you know of Brother Kieran, Roger Kieran. But he was a good friend to all of us. And I was in charge of buildings and grounds. And in those days, as they say, the college has not yet gone co-ed. USF had, Santa Clara had, and so forth. For maybe not the wisest of reasons, but financial stability, that was the real reason. So I got involved in a conversation with Kieran about the fact that I had heard that the brothers were going up to the retreat house, St. Helena, to talk about what their mission was. And I told Kieran, I said, you want to know what your mission is? I'll tell you. I know. I was an undergrad and I'm an employee, but I'll tell you what the Christian Brothers mission is. And I'm shocked that you have to go away and talk about it. But they were on the verge of losing sight of what their mission is. Well, to a certain extent, the choice of individuals, the fact, for example, that students were recruited from Catholic high schools that really attracted and catered to lower income individuals and families and so forth, that were not well set, that were not, we didn't go, St. Mary's didn't go recruiting over in the upper income areas of the state of California. And the fact that we had, 6 or 7 that were recruited from my high school in Vallejo, which at that time was a very, maybe middle or lower middle income community, pointed to the mission of the Christian Brothers, which is reaching out to and bringing up down and out, mostly young men, and they viewed that as their primary mission. And to a certain extent, that's, it seems to me, is part of the mission of the special studies, is to take and reach those individuals and really expose them to the great writers of the world, to the great ideas, to the potential that everyone would have. And as Tom mentioned, the education I got was something that I really didn't anticipate. I kind of understood what the School of Liberal Arts was about and what the program was about. But this program exposed us to so much more, whether it be the classical languages like Greek, as Dennis mentioned, or science. And we, for example, we went out and went to San Francisco, exposed us to the Eastern religions, for example. We went to breakfast with the Russian Orthodox Patriarch in San Francisco. We went to and got a special showing at the planetarium in San Francisco and so forth. So it exposed us to so much more. Bottom line, the thing that I will say that it has done for me more than anything else, and the college always has offered itself as a promoter of critical thinking. And however, it has not always met up to that standard very well. And I would say specifically, I came back for a similar seminar after 25 years of the MBA program, and that's exactly the issue that we talked about most, was teaching critical thinking to those students. But what it did is it caused me, certainly as a young man, to question everything, to question whatever had been given to me by the parochial and Catholic education that I had been subjected to at the elementary and secondary level, and to really be a solitary and an independent thinker. And that has served me well over the years, particularly in recent times, when we talk about what's real, what's fake news, and so forth. But anyway, I'll stop at that.
Good.
Okay.
I just have 3 words, in other words, I didn't do my words.
Oh, you asked for 3 words?
Keep your best word.
He had 3 words.
That's what he asked for.
I'll give you 3
I think we got different requests.
Well, we interpret them differently.
No.
All right, I got 3 things to say. 1, 2, 3. 1, freedom.
Okay,
2, power. 3, community.
3 what?
Power, in this order: freedom, freedom to inquire,
Yeah.
freedom to break the rules, freedom to not give a shit about anything other than what I care to do. Right? 2, power. Power of words, power in language, power in life, and not have to work for anybody if I didn't want to. Because I can make a living from what I learned from this program. 4, community. This is the community of needs, the community of the mind, and it opened up everything that I feel is important.
Now, first of all, Brother Robert was mentioned, and everything was said about it was true. He's long gone, but he was amazing. I'm the only one in the room who never went through the program. I never was. I was a mathematician. How did I get in this place today? Brother Robert one day literally grabbed me by the front of my robe and said, "What do you know about the integrated program?" He said, "You're going to be teaching junior lab." That's how he worked.
Still,
It may have been a postcard, but okay. Now, your job is to ask these old guys things that interest you. Whatever you'd like to ask. And don't be ashamed, they're way over there. They can't do any harm. Go ahead.
This is it. I have 3 words, but I talked too long anyway, and I will fit them in later.
Oh, you got 3 more?
I do.
Oh,
Very simple. Who, what, why?
somebody's going to ask you what they are in a minute.
Well, my name's Colin Jones. I'm a junior here in the program. I guess if I'm going to ask something that interests me, I study the Integral program primarily for policy, for understanding how policy works. I could talk all day about what I think about that. More of interest to me, since we have lawyer, academician, and a sort of entrepreneur politician in the room. I mentioned you're a mayor. So for policy, and your gentleman's interaction with it, how do you view the program sort of set you up for that, for dealing with idea turning into action? If that question makes sense, I'm kind of interested in how you all feel the program helps you with that.
Let me start with that. And I would say, I didn't know everything that I heard today, which is why because I consider these 2 fellows very good friends. So it was education for me. But I think, hopefully, certainly what I took from the other 2, and I think you too, and maybe I don't understand how you mean policy, but policy to me is, well, it can be several things. But one way to look at policy is to say that's the thought of the process. And if that's all it is, and it's never put into action, then that can happen, but I think it's not fulfilled. And therefore, to me, policy, a good policy, is fulfilled. And I think in Jerry's case and in Ned's case, whatever policy means to them, they certainly fulfilled their concept of what they had learned. And so I would think that, again, I'm troubled by the term policy, but if I'm at least thinking of it correctly, we all, I think, the 3 of us, lived out by action what we thought we had gathered from our whole life, but as significantly impacted. This program actually changed my life, and I'd like to think for the better. And I think thereafter, I acted upon what I gathered, both, this is more than this program, obviously, but you act on it. And I have spent the rest of my life acting on that, plus what you accumulate on top of that. So, but somebody else would get policy.
Ideas into action, or in the sense of opened up a whole world to me all my life. Basically, without mind, there's no life, but with mind, you can have a great life that gives you good things. For example, for years I was on what I call the academic tip. In other words, I taught, and I loved that. It was my life. And that, in a sense, was turning ideas into action. But what really struck me as a way to act in the world was when I left academia. Basically, I had to make a living, and I made a living by Aristotle. I told my students when I was here the second time I taught here, I'd say, the metaphysics is wonderful, but you can't make a nickel out of it. Read the rhetoric. And I saw my students read the rhetoric. And believe me, it did it. I mean, I left academia. It was a political turmoil time. But I wanted to do in the world what I wanted to do. I was a member of the Society, Students for a Democratic Society. I was very much against the war, and that was a part of myself. But the other part of myself was being in the world. And I decided to be in the world through the power of words. So I became a professional writer, but I also became a marketer. I became a public relations actor. I became an activist. And I basically made a living in the world by reading my Aristotle's rhetoric. I would turn to book 2 and take a look at what is the syllogism that will persuade. You all know about the syllogism, A, B, etc. Well, the enthymeme is the rhetorical syllogism, and it's much different. I'll give you a very quick example. The Athenians go to the Spartans, and they're saying, we do not want to have a fight with you. We want to be peaceful. Let's all get together and sing Kumbaya. And the Spartans are listening, and they think, well, maybe these Athenians have something to say. And they're talking to themselves. And finally they say, okay, you Athenians, leave the room. Now we're going to talk like Spartans. And they're talking again, should we go to war? Should we not go to war? And an old geezer says, God damn it, we're Spartans. We go to war. And that's a rhetorical emphasis. In other words, the enthymeme is an argument from the heart, from the emotions, not an argument from the mind. That's how I want to make a living in the world. And I thank the Integral for it.
I don't know if Dennis or Tom will remember, but certainly in my mind, during the 4 years that we were in the program and so forth, I kept thinking to myself, well, what is this really about? What are we being prepared for? Why did Robert and all the different instructors that we were involved in? By the way, some people have garnered the impression that somehow, whether you call it special studies or the integrated program, that it's an elite group. Well, we get together now for lunch and so forth, and of the if you want to call us elite, we're graduates of St. Mary's College, so we are. But I think maybe half of us are graduates of the program, and the other half are not. Certainly Vanelli, Cazette, and so forth, who are our friends during class, and they were in the class, and the classes were all, we let early come to lunch. The classes were all mixed. My degree from St. Mary's College was in history and economics. Okay, well, it didn't say special studies or integrated or anything else. It was history, and I have a BA in history. My interest has always been in history. But the point is, that I was getting to is that it occurred to me, well, what is this? What is Robert up to? What's he trying to do by this program? What did Haggerty have in mind when he put this program together for us who are now in it and going through it? We were the first class. And it seemed to me, as I recall, during our senior year, we raised that question with Robert in a seminar. I don't know if you remember us doing that, but I certainly do. And there was no answer. It isn't that he had any secondary or sinister motive and so forth. It was simply to convey all that had been gathered together by the great minds of the world, by the writers of the world, by all the great books, and present it to us in a way that they thought would really be beneficial in making us a complete person, a complete citizen, in the world that we were about to go out into. And it wasn't that we were expected all to be great, successful business people in the financial world or even in academia, but that we were prepared for whatever we encountered. And I think we all three agreed that that was accomplished.
The thing that came through more than anything else, you can do whatever you need to do, you can read any text. Max had on his door, Brother Rayfield had on his door, a sentence, I don't know who it came from, but it was in French, and it said, "Je ne suis qu'un lecteur." I am only, du texte, yes, "Je ne suis qu'un lecteur du texte." I am only a reader of texts. And boy, that burned itself on my mind, and that's, any text in the world is available to us. I mean, I don't know, somebody can give physics paper. Hey, I learned calculus when I was walking in my treadmill, right, watching a university course. It was fun, it was terrific. I mean, you do what you have to do in the world to understand any text and act on it.
Now, Tom mentioned a word before you start. Tom mentioned a word that showed up a little bit, and I think Robert probably taught me this long after you guys. The word conversation. Because you're going to live with other people the rest of your life in all kinds of situations. And conversation, this kind of conversation is crucial. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one thing I didn't want to get across. The other great thing about this education is the rest of your life. And keep in mind, I graduated in 1960, a long time ago. And yet, almost every day of my life, I'm enjoying things, exploring things, and doing odd life things. And a lot of that comes from what I learned here for 4 years. Had I been in another program, I'm sure it would have worked out okay. But I doubt seriously that I would have the same impression of life that I do now. And I like to think the impression of life that I have now is a good impression. It is something that keeps me interested. It is something that makes me want to continue to learn. And it is something that makes me pursue wisdom. My wife is deceased. I was a college graduate. But she was a lot wiser than I ever was. It was almost as if she was born that way. I used to look at mad at her because she would say wise things. Sometimes I might even say something smart, but I almost never said anything wise. So you can find wisdom, and I'm still looking. This at least starts you on that chase of where certainly I'd like to wind up. I'd like to have some wisdom before I die.
That's what I meant by community. In a sense, the Integral opens us all up to a community that dates back to the Mesopotamian time. Mohenjo-Daro, the invention of the zero. I mean, whatever you ought to handle, you can handle. You're part of a language of a world. I mean, I wake up every morning, my eye blinks open, and I think, does the ontological argument obtain? You know,
It was always kind of weird.
Yeah. It's constant. It lasts for your whole life.
That's certainly been my case.
Yeah, we still argue with each other 60 years later.
Why not?
Same arguments.
Same argument.
Are you buying all this?
More or less.
A little bit.
Yeah, hope, please.
Absolutely.
Because we're not trying to sell it. I'm just living it.
Yeah, what do you mean by policy?
Ideas as a way of action is actually what I wanted to get, and then you gentlemen actually landed on sort of the answer I was hoping to hear, I suppose. So thank you. Do we have to get backgrounds? Do we get emails that we have to get background? I think we did. Yeah. You want to start, Lane?
Sure, we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
All right. My name is Lane Corfield, and I'm currently a sophomore in the program. I'm from Sunnyvale, California, and I went to Pinewood School in Los Altos Hills for high school. Yeah, I currently play on the women's rugby team here, along with maybe 5 other Integral students.
5 or 6.
5 or 6, yeah. My favorite thing really I've ever done is sophomore math, specifically Ptolemy. I'm really into that and I'm excited for Copernicus. And then actually next semester I'll be in the Rome Institute for Liberal Arts.
My name is Mika Worth. I'm from San Ramon, California, and I went to Cal High over there. And I got into the Integral program because my mother is a librarian and she's always inspired a love of reading and text in me, and I and loving every minute of it as a freshman in the Integral program. And I'm even finding things that I didn't think would interest me either, like math, like Lane was saying, is incredible to me. And I think that through the Integral program, I've been allowed to experience these things that in high school I didn't think were open to me, because in high school I viewed education as a competition, and if you can't compete in something, why would I pursue it? But here I'm allowed to pursue everything because it is a community, like you were all saying, instead of a competition.
Alright, so I'm Isaac Joy. I'm currently a fresh person here, as the phrase goes. I'm also from San Ramon, California, and I was homeschooled, which was really what drew me to the Integral program, since the format here seemed very similar to what I was familiar with the reading of text and discussions and things like that. The other thing that drew me to St. Mary's was a billboard I saw while driving down the freeway. So those ad campaigns really do work. Like every bus that I saw for the next month or so had a St. Mary's ad on it. So clearly there's a message there for me. But yeah, in a word, I'm loving the Integral program. It's pretty much everything that I could have hoped for and more. Pretty much I agree with everything that's been said on this side of the table, so I won't be redundant. But yeah, it is awesome.
My name is Rachel Choate. I'm a junior in the program. I grew up in Boise, Idaho, and came here actually to pursue a career in math. But I found the program through the orientation, and I was like, I might as well try it. There's nothing to lose, essentially, and I ended up loving it. I feel as though, like everything that you guys were saying, I just really related to in math. I feel as though I'm developing an awareness that I wouldn't have found elsewhere, and I love it. I love that I can stop and look around, and that's why.
Back up a minute, did you say Idaho?
Yeah.
So you didn't see any billboards?
No.
So how did that work?
I went to a college fair, and St. Mary's seemed great, and that's how I ended up here. I guess I wanted to go to California because, you know, California. So.
My father came from Whitefish.
Really? Montana or Idaho?
Where else?
Well, okay, I didn't know there was a white fish.
So up in the corner. Anyway, he came to California.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, I expected sunshine. It's a little rainier here than I anticipated, but it's okay. But yes, I really love the program. I love the person it's training me to. I love the awareness that I feel like I'm developing about the world around me, about the people that I interact with, about the way that I think, and I just really, the program is probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. So.
You want to go first, because my bio is a little bit longer.
My name is Sam Dixon. I'm a first year. I'm from Sacramento, California, which isn't too far. And I went to Christian Brothers High School, which is another LaSalle institute. Yeah, so far I'm loving it. I love the emphasis on discussion, even in subjects like lab and math, where you wouldn't think discussion would be a priority, but because like in high school and stuff, you don't really discuss, you just kind of listen to the teacher and do your homework and take your test. So I really love the discussion in every single class. I'm looking forward to what the rest of the program has in store.
My name is Colin Jones. I'm a junior here in the program. I am a returning student. I originally came here in 2009. I was slated to become a political science and anthropology double major, and yeah, I saw that. My orientation leader caught me arguing with my soon-to-be sociology professor because I didn't like what they said, and I thought there was something fishy going on with how their logic was put together. And she went, "Okay, come with me." Walked me down the hall and introduced me to Brother Donald Mansir, and he said, "Yeah, I guess you can join." And I became an info major. Unfortunately, due to financial constraints, I had to leave 3 months later. I only spent a semester here. I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. I was in the infantry. I was with the 3rd Battalion 2nd Marines over in Lejeune. To be frank, if I had enjoyed any sort of success whatsoever in the military, it was because of this program. About 3 months of it changed me radically, how I thought, who I was. And when I got out, St. Mary's became my first and only real choice. I wanted to come back to this program, and I came back into this school because of this program. So that's my short little bio. I'm a Bay Area native, so this is kind of home to me in a weird way. I guess hearing my peers and listen to you gentlemen, which I guess are peers several decades removed. I guess the words that come to mind are wonder. I like that. That really encapsulated a lot of what I was trying to understand what the program did for me, and why I think integral students are different. We are not afraid to wonder, we're enabled to wonder and appreciate the world around us and sort of all the weird things in it. Empowerment, I heard power at the core of that being talked around a couple places, and I think that's sort of the operative change of what happens to us, right?
But one line did not get quoted, and I thought Tom was going to. Wonder is the beginning of wisdom.
Wonder is the beginning of knowledge
There we are.
and philosophy.
And the program empowers us to interact with what we wonder at. I think that's really cool. And the last word, I guess, that came to mind, especially when Rich was talking, was companionship. Actually, I heard it over here, but Dennis as well, is companionship not just with my peers, but also with Aristotle and Plato and Aquinas and all these people who travel along in my brain now. I can't shut up because their words stick with me the same way Rachel's words stick with me. You know, when
I wrote my little material, I didn't read it, but I started to get fancy at the end, I cut it all out. But one thing I really wanted to write was that what the integral has enabled me to do, a kid from LA, is to walk in context and in conversation with the philosophers, the writers of the world. I think of the image of the Elysian Fields, as you see it at the beginning, I think it's at the beginning of Dante, you see it, but it's also, you see it throughout Plato. And it's where you can talk with Aristotle. I mean, you can argue with Plato. You can go to Lobachevsky and say, what the hell's going on here?
Now let him finish.
that was perfect. That was exactly sort of what I was trying to get at. You know, when I run into a problem, and I also study economics here. When I run into a problem in economics, all those integral voices start speaking in my head. When I run into a new idea or a new trend, I hear Rachel in my head talking from our conversation past. Brother Rayfield was actually my first math tutor, and I still have him grumbling at me while I was panicking at the board in my head. So yeah, I think
Was
this
this
is
second
that.
one? No.
No, this was in Galileo. It was in Galileo. So yeah, I guess wonder, empowerment, and companionship is the program is doing.
We're speaking of the choir, Dennis.
Yeah, we are, and that's what's great about it. In other words, there's you guys. I would say you guys are no more different than we were 50, 60 years ago.
Just smarter, better.
Yeah, better looking. But yeah, I mean, we're big. That's what I mean by companionship. That's what I mean by this.
Well, we spend the rest of our lives getting together and not talking about dull things.
Yeah, well, you get that bottle of old 25-year-old wine out of the cellar, and all of a sudden we're arguing about existentialism.
Similar to what Colin and you, Dennis, have both said about companionship, one of the words I kind of thought of in terms of integral is respect. In the sense, there's like a mutual sense of respect. There isn't that sort of difference as there was in high school between you and your teacher and between you and the tutors. And I don't know if that's just a college generally thing or a more of an integral specific thing, but even tutors who I've never had in like a tutorial, I had like a 2-hour talk with one of our tutors, and I just went into her office to talk about grad school, and I never had it. And so there's kind of this mutual understanding and sense of respect, and I think it is because they are tutors and not professors in that more traditional sense that keeps you on that playing field, that even playing field that makes them more of your companions rather than someone above you.
You know, we met at the chapel stairs, and within 3 minutes we were talking about Aristotle's categories. Just happened to think of it. And
Happens every time.
yeah, think of how that happens throughout your whole life. I mean,
You know, you're talking too about companionship. I remember, if I were wandering around, which wasn't very often, at 1 o'clock in the morning, you wandered over where Robert had his office. He was more often than not in his office, and he always had time for you to walk in and sit down and talk to him about anything. And he was totally non-judgmental, but very, very helpful. The brothers went to an early mass, and I always wondered how Robert did, because I forget what time it was, at least 7. It was, and Robert, I don't know if you're one there, no, but that's the companionship of all of this. You want to say the intellect, but it isn't just the intellect. So you all seem to kind of radiate that. So I don't envy you, because I wouldn't go through it again. I mean, well, I'm happy where I am. But I admire it. I don't want to be young again.
You want to be wise.
I want to be as old as I am.
Now, 2 things, it's new, but it seems to me that this has been a reasonably good idea. And I think we ought to foster it in the future and mix the group around, get some other old, I think it's a useful thing. Is that kind of clear? I mean, it's a good way to blow off Saturday morning.
I think that if I wasn't here, so this is probably a little bit more beneficial.
Let's push that along, let's talk
And,
it out.
the Integral Alumni Council is kind of where this comes from, and Ernest has been really involved in that. And
Ernie's always involved.
That's it, I am so admired Ernie because of that. And it's something that I think is real valuable, and it's something I think that both students and alumni can use profitably from now on. So I think there's a thought of making this a yearly event or something like that.
Because in all the years I've been involved with the program as an outsider, the same question is always at the back of all of our minds, well, certainly yours, maybe before theirs. And that was the question that was raised. What good is all this?
That's right.
And it seems to me, even though we say nice things, we have at the back, what good is all this? And we want to keep asking that
You
question.
can make a living after Integral.
There you go.
Forget whether you make a living, which I shouldn't, but the best thing about it is I'm retired. And every day I get something from what I got here. And of course you add it on to it. I'll tell you, as you get older, if you're fortunate enough to get older, right, to have something giving back to you the rest of your life, that can't be said for many really good courses, right? You take nuclear physics, that's wonderful. But will it, I'm in no position to answer this question, but will it do for you what this has done for me? I doubt it. So it's just something to think about, because education is not about making a living. You want to be able to make a living. But I would wish for you the ability to live the rest of your life with that wonder I talked to you about. Getting up in the morning and finding something which is wonderful, something really interests you. And that's finding wonder in the world. A lot of people don't seem to find wonder in the world.
Good. We will stop there because Brother Kenneth will be very angry with me if we're late. So thank you all very much.
You know what?
Thank you.
I started never that. I was like,
You were there maybe once.
you know, when I shot my head off.
Yeah.
You're going to give my voice good.
Yeah, I think what we'll do, we have to consider what we should do.
Yes.
Well,